and here we go.
There's the deluge. Here's ignition.
Roger, roll, Atlantic. Throttling up.
Did it just do a Kerbal?
Back to the moon and beyond.
Put that in the big bag, Jingle.
Back at home, we all have a lot of work to do, but from here, it sure looks like a perfect world.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
We did have an observation.
Equalize.
343 unfolds to go.
It's orange.
Water towers can fly!
Bingo! Right in the center. Where's Jacqueline? There it is!
That was surreal.
That's not what we want to see.
No!
Oh my god.
Yikes. You bet. Sure. We don't need any more of these.
Well, everybody has been asking us when Flight 12, and while it might not be the Flight 12, we do have an Flight 12 for you today, and it's a heavy lift rocket at that, because in 1 hour, 56 minutes and 50 seconds time, Falcon Heavy is destined to return. It's been 1.5 years since we last saw this rocket vertical at Launch Complex 39A in Florida. It's been a long time coming. It's been another little hiatus in Falcon Heavy launches, but finally it is back for what will be, fingers crossed, multiple launches this year. My name is Ryan Caton. Thank you very much for joining us for this, relatively nice time of day morning launch of Falcon Heavy. It's not just my voice you'll be hearing on stream today. We've got everyone's out in the field today. First of all, Sawyer. How you doing, Sawyer? I thought we had Sawyer. Do we have Sawyer?
Yes, we do. Sorry, there was chopper noise and wind noise, but I'm here now. We're good. It is a beautiful day to go to space. I mean, most days are, but when you add in Falcon Heavy, it gets even better. So hopefully we see this thing lift off in just a couple hours.
Indeed. Also in the field, we have Max. Hi, Max.
Good morning, everybody. And Flight 12, Ryan, and Flight 12.
It is the 12th flight of this rocket.
It is. It's true. I mean, people have been saying when Flight 12, but they never specified what Flight 12 they were talking about. But it is also kind of scary, the fact that even though Falcon Heavy debuted all the way back in 2018, 8 years ago now, Starship Super Heavy has flown the exact same number of times, at least until this rocket hopefully gets off the ground in just under 2 hours from now. So weird how things go sometimes, but it really shows just how rare of a beast that Falcon Heavy really is.
Indeed. And we have got so many minutes and hours to talk about this rocket. It's very, very exciting. We're usually, sometimes we usually go live about an hour before launch. Sometimes for Falcon Heavy in the past, we go live, 90 minutes or so. We threw an extra half hour on top of this stream because I'm sure everybody in chat has many, many questions for us. And we're going to try and, get as excited as possible for this rocket, because this is a 3-core rocket, 2 of which will be returning to the Cape. And even though we've seen Falcon Heavy launch 11 times before, this Falcon Heavy launch is going to look completely different to what we have seen on those 11 previous flights, because Landing Zone 1 is gone. It's no more. SpaceX is not allowed in. They are only allowed access to Landing Zone 2 and Landing Zone 40, which is their brand new landing pad within the grounds of Space Launch Complex 40 at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. So we are going to see double booster landings miles apart, and that's going to be really, really interesting. We're trying to cook up some things so we can see both boosters at the same time, but we'll just have to wait and see how that turns out, because they're going to be in very different places of the sky depending where you are watching from. So that's going to be really, really interesting. Of course, as I should say, Jay Keegan producing the stream right now, and if you have any questions for us, tag us in chat at NASA Spaceflight or at NSF, and we can get things started. Sawyer, first of all, you wrote the brilliant article on nasaspaceflight.com for this launch. Would you mind giving us a little bit of a rundown on what we're actually launching today?
Sure, absolutely. So this is the ViaSat-3 F3 or Flight 3 mission. So as it implies, this is the third in 3 total of satellites that are being launched for this current Viasat network. So Viasat is a geostationary satellite internet provider. So they're used a lot on different airlines. I know I fly JetBlue and they use Viasat for theirs. But the main thing is they'll be used for internet on planes, on boats, as well as some government uses as well. This is one of the higher throughput ones. We're talking into the terabyte range of being able to support data in all these different places. And this one in particular will be supporting the Asia and the Pacific region. They already have one launched for the Americas and one launched for Europe and Africa. So this will be the third one. You could see it there on your screen of this Boeing satellite bus. Basically what we've seen the other 2 launched on. And this is not Falcon Heavy's first Viasat launch either. The first one of these, Viasat Americas, was launched on Falcon Heavy, although due to an issue once it deployed, that one's actually being moved to Europe. The Europe one is going to move to the Americas. The second flight flew on Atlas V, and now this third one back to Falcon Heavy.
An unfortunate snub for the Ariane 6, this payload in particular. But we get to see a Falcon Heavy, and even though I have to be, European represent, if I'm given the choice between a Falcon Heavy and an Ariane 6, I'm not picking the Ariane 6. I'll put it that way.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was the plan, was Ariane 6, but then it kind of got behind schedule of actually getting off the ground, and then the backlog became so great, especially once they started adding payloads that were originally going to launch from French Guiana on Soyuz that needed another rocket in French Guiana, so the only option right now is Ariane 6 from there. So yeah, they figured it would be faster to just use Falcon Heavy.
Yeah, and that has worked out to be true, with this launch scheduled for 1 hour and 51 minutes from now. Speak of the devil, though, there is actually an Ariane 6 scheduled to launch on Thursday morning, so that'll be another batch of Amazon LEO satellites. But yeah, a big backlog for that rocket. Let's have a look through here. We have a great question here from Static Fire 1387. They're asking, why have we not seen another attempt at a center core recovery? Why are they always expendable? And why throw away a new booster instead of an older one? Max, I'm going to throw this one over to you because I want to get your thoughts on this. We have seen them attempt to land the center core 3 times, I believe.
Yep.
They've never made it back to port. They landed once and then it kind of fell over. What do you think? Do you think they should be trying to recover these center cores, or do you think it's kind of at the point where let's just expend it because it's too much, it's too fast?
I mean, it's a combination of things. I mean, on those first 2 flights or first 3 flights, the drone ship is a lot farther downrange, and the center core is having to come in and re-enter at much higher speeds, which is a lot more work for all Falcon 9 systems or all Falcon systems, I should say, to do and to compensate for compared to what Falcon 9 normally has to do, which is essentially what Falcon Heavy is, being 3 Falcon 9s strapped together, right? So the drone ship is normally about 300 to 400 kilometers farther downrange than compared to normal, and that has proven to be a bit trickier to recover accurately. Of course, they did it with the Arabsat-6A mission, where they landed the core in the center there on the drone ship, but it was lost at sea. On the Falcon Heavy demo mission, that it went right into the water, right next to the drone ship, and then on Flight 3 with, I think it was STP-2, it also went right into the water next to the drone ship. So it's proven to be a bit tricky. And I guess to add a bit more performance and just to increase the rocket's chances of success, they have just opted to save themselves the headache and just expend the center core. I mean, sometimes you do need all of the performance that you can get from the rocket from all 3 cores, and we've seen that twice now, actually from the first flight with Viasat and Falcon Heavy back in 2023, actually almost 3 years ago to the day, which is kind of strange. And then also with the launch of the Europa Clipper mission in October of 2024, which was also ironically the last time Falcon Heavy has flown. So it's a lot more difficult to do. They're asking a lot more things for that. Good grief, tongue in mouth. They are asking the core in the center to do a lot more work than Falcon normally has to do, and that is just proven to be, I think, a bit trickier than SpaceX would like. And I think it's just easier all around for them to just aim for a double side core recovery and then just expending the center core and giving the payload a bit more performance with the prop margins that they would normally have saved for a boost back or a landing burn in entries. So it's just easier all around, I think. Maybe one day they'll get back to trying to recover the center core. But with them being back down to only one drone ship here on the East Coast, that might prove tricky in the times to come. Because of course, again, with it being farther away, that means a lot longer turnaround time for the drone ship to go out and come back. So I don't know. Maybe we'll see it again soon. But I think Falcon Heavy is as reliable as ever, as with how it is currently configured. So I guess a very long-winded and kind of all over the place answer there, but I think that's why.
And it's also important to remember that the center core is, it's a bespoke design. It is especially strengthened. It has more mass than your typical Falcon 9 booster. So they can't, if they just strapped three bog standard Falcon 9 boosters together, then the rocket would kind of turn into spaghetti and start wiggling about, because it simply wouldn't be able to contain the structural loads from the two side cores strapped to the center core. So they have to build that center core to be extra buff, in layman's terms. And for this launch, they've obviously decided to go with a brand new booster, but they do have a Falcon Heavy center core in the fleet. They have B1091. That is a Falcon Heavy center core. It just has never flown in the tri-core configuration yet. It's only ever flown in single stick to give it some flight heritage. So they could have used that booster, but they've obviously decided to go ahead and expend a brand new booster this time around. But of course, they could have picked B1091, but they don't have the option of all the different Falcon 9 boosters. They have a much more limited selection of boosters they can play around with when it comes to those center cores, because again, they need to be extra strong, because not only do they have to sustain the forces of its own 9 Merlin engines, it has to sustain the forces of 9 extra Merlin engines from the left booster and another 9 engines from the right booster. So that's triple the forces than just a single stick.
And mind you as well, we have at least 2 more Falcon Heavy missions coming up, hopefully by the end of the year. First being the Griffin mission 1 with Astrobotic, hopefully in the July timeframe. And then the newly announced Nancy Grace Roman telescope launching 8 months ahead of schedule, hopefully in the early to mid-September timeframe. So at least 2 more missions coming up this year. I think there were 4 more on the docket this year, although I can't remember what the other 2 missions were off the top of my head. But we have more coming up this year, thankfully, and we kind of want it, because the last year we had a big year for Falcon Heavy was back in 2023, and I think it launched 4 times. I want to say it was, and mind you, in 2024 it only launched twice with GoZU and then Clipper, many months apart on both ends there. So we are like well overdue for a Falcon Heavy at this point here.
Yeah, 2023 saw 5 Falcon Heavy launches with USSF-67, the previous ViaSat-3 mission on this vehicle, Echo Star 14, Psyche, and USSF-52. So that was, 2023 was a great year for Falcon Heavy. They then flew a couple times in 24 and then decided to take a year off. It was clearly too much for Falcon Heavy. Anyways, as you can see, it is wonderful, wonderful skies in Florida this morning. Also joining us from the field is Julia Bergeron. And Julia, I'm just wondering, from your perspective, how is the weather feeling right now?
Well, the weather is kind of temperamental here in Florida. It's starting to act a little bit more like Florida. When we were out at remote set yesterday, I actually decided that Florida did start preheating and it was getting hot. And in contrast to that, I can tell you there's actually kind of a cool breeze this morning. So we are at 76 degrees and our humidity is up. There are clouds dotting the sky, but they're mostly just floofy, what we draw in the sky clouds when we're coloring as kids. With that being said, there is that breeze, it is stiff enough to get the flag pretty consistently waving right now, though. So I can't say I personally have seen the weather forecast yet from the 45th Space Wing, but I would say, oh, of course, we're going to bring that up. But with that being said, let's look at that together, yo.
70%.
Yep. And I can see where that would probably be coming from, and that would be these winds. So we don't have to look at the downrange, but with rocket going up and 2 cores coming back down, that could be one of the concerns.
Actually, it's not the
For
wind.
all, though?
It's the cumulus cloud rule and the surface electric field rule, excuse me, which again, for these, you mentioned the little puffy clouds that are starting to go overhead. As long as they stay light and
Yeah.
puffy, it's okay.
As long as they're light and puffy, yes. We don't like dark and ominous. So we'll see what Florida brings, but 70%'s not bad odds.
And of course, we have a little bit of a launch window to play with. It opens in an hour and 42 minutes time, but it is also 85 minutes long. So once we get into prop load with Falcon Heavy, we can't wait any longer because of the way that SpaceX chills down their propellant. But if they see something in the weather before they start prop load, they can push into the window ever so slightly, or all the way if they need to. So fingers crossed, weather continues to cooperate for a launch sometime in this morning's launch window. We have a great question for you, Sawyer, from Dennis for Official, asking what changes did SpaceX make to Launch Complex 39A post-shuttle to adapt it for Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy?
Ooh, that's a great question. So the main thing is the fixed service structure that you see there was gray. It is not. But most importantly, there was something there called the rotating service structure. So it was this big kind of protective cover for the orbiter when it was out there at the pad. And it would roll into place on these train tracks that were on the ground, which if you look in some of the member photos that were posted from when we set up remotes yesterday, you can still see parts of that elbow of where it would bend to do that rotation. So that was completely removed. The shuttle was actually slightly lower, I believe, or was at a slightly different height than Falcon with Dragon on it. So they had to add a little bit of a step up to get to where the crew access arm was. Since then, obviously, the crew access arm has been removed, which is why you don't see it on there. But that was just SpaceX doing that. In addition, they beefed up the fuel tanks that they have around the area there. Plus, the shuttle used hydrogen, whereas Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy used kerosene. So they had to swap out for RP1 there.
And I believe we have just gotten a little cheeky update from SpaceX themselves saying that teams are keeping an eye on the weather. So not a, blanket vote of confidence in the weather, but just keeping an eye. No deal breakers in that post there from SpaceX. But yeah, keeping an eye. I'm sure we can all interpret what that means. Might be on the edge a little bit, so they're going to be paying extra close attention to make sure that there is a nice clean patch of sky above Falcon Heavy for launch in 1 hour, 39 minutes and 50 seconds time. We have gotten a lot of support in the first 15 minutes or so of this stream, so I'm going to run through that very quickly. First of all, Jewel Tomton, sorry if I pronounced that wrong, thank you for your support. They're asking, why did they go for a Falcon Heavy instead of a Falcon 9? Judging from the statistics, Falcon 9 should be able to haul the SAT to geostationary orbit. Sawyer, I'm going to throw that one over to you as well. Did you find when making your article any reason from Viasat why they decided to go with a Falcon Heavy? Because, just by the mass of the satellite, surely it should be able to be launched into orbit by Falcon 9, right? Did we lose Sawyer?
Son of a gun. Sorry about that. Yeah. So basically, the way that the satellite is, yeah, they could probably get into a orbit, but the question is the orbit, the definitive article, you might say. Most of the time with Falcon 9, it ends up going towards geostationary transfer orbit. Not always, depending on the payload, but most of the time. Whereas with Falcon Heavy, you can go direct into geostationary orbit. So it's not like it drops it off in GTO and then the satellite does all the extra boost maneuvers and things to get it into place and takes them months to, maneuver and all that. No, this one gets you a lot closer to your final orbit right away in geostationary direct, which is also why you see the gray mission extension kit stripe up on that upper stage there too, because it's going to take about 5 hours for the satellite to deploy. It's a way to thermally regulate all of the propellants on board as it goes into the varying temperatures that is space.
And there you go on the left, a picture. Excuse me. On the left, a picture from remote set yesterday. That grey stripe, very clear, on the base of the second stage there, just to keep the temperatures nice when it's exposed to the sunlight in space. Also a great look at both of those fairing halves. One very sooty, one a little less sooty. Thanks to these pictures, we were able to determine that these fairing halves are serial number 218 and serial number 169. The former being the passive half, the latter being the active half. So it'll be great to see those in action on their much reused flights. They're going to be recovered downrange, fingers crossed, by Doug. We have Good Joe Guy. Thank you for your support. Asking if the caps on the side boosters will be jettisoned and recovered, or will they stay attached through landing? If you're referencing the nose cones, they stay attached to the boosters. They remain attached throughout landing, all the way down to the ground. Kiwi Nibbles, thank you for your support, asking if we will ever get to see a triple booster recovery. Max, we were talking about that a little bit earlier. I don't know if this is next space flight just not having the information, or if it is actually true. But according to the upcoming manifest, the Roman Space Telescope is unknown right now. So
Yeah.
maybe.
I mean, I think SpaceX would like to get would like to get back to doing that. Obviously, they haven't since Falcon Heavy Flight 3 in STP-2 way back in 2019. So, one of my theories behind B1091 flying single stick for a while is they want to get better data on how Falcon Heavy center cores functioning as single stick perform compared to normal Falcon 9 boosters to give that core in the center the best chances of success when or if they ever do opt to try and have those recovered again. So maybe. And that very well could be as soon as the launch of the Roman Space Telescope, hopefully around September. So that's not off the table. And it is also very strange to see a Falcon Heavy center core flying single stick, because you don't get as much performance. Good Lord. You don't get as much performance out of it because, for one, it's heavier, and two, well, actually, just mostly because it's heavier and it can't hold as much propellant, and the engines can't do as much work because of that. But they're able to push it a little bit harder and get better data on how it flies compared to normal single stick Falcons. So, but again, they are back down to a singular drone ship here on the east coast of Florida with the recent retirement of just read the instructions, at least from Falcon duties. So the turnaround time there is probably going to be closer to a week between how long the drone ship takes to get out to the LZ and come back. So I know SpaceX would like to at some point, and that could be as soon as this year. But again, we don't know. That's purely a theory.
I've just been looking at next space flight again, and the Roman Space Telescope is 10.1 metric tons, and it's going to Lagrange point 2. So center core recovery might be off the table for that one, but
yeah, probably.
But SpaceX's John Edwards did say on X all the way back in 2023. So this tweet is almost 3 years old at this point. But he did say that the Astrobotic Griffin lander will have a center core recovery. Now, that is a little ways away. Like I said, this is a very old tweet back when Griffin was going to be launching sometime in 2024. That's currently on the schedule for next year. So it's been delayed by a few years, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens with that specific. Oh wait, no, it's later this year. Sorry,
Yeah.
I got confused. It is later this year, second half of this year. So we'll just have to wait and see. That'd be very cool to see.
I mean, Ryan, you say second half. Like, I think it's currently scheduled for the July timeframe, so that's coming up sooner than we think. So I don't know. That could be very soon.
Yeah, I got confused between Griffin Mission 1 and Astrobotic Lunar Mission 3. I'm not sure where number 2 went.
We don't talk about that one.
Let's see here. We have another bit of support from Joe, or Good Joe Guy again. Thank you for gifting a Red Team membership. Astro Ellie, thank you for your support. Falcon Heavy, finally. How lucky are we? Barbara, thank you for your support. No message, but thank you. DJ Pond, thank you for gifting 20 Red Team memberships there. Flipper79 McGregor, part of the team, thank you for gifting 5 Red Team memberships. And Marco asking, will the center stage burn up in the atmosphere? I think burn up is one way to put it. Disintegrate, or it'll be subject to the immense aerodynamic forces is another way. But depending what survives Sawyer, it's gonna be dunked into the Atlantic Ocean.
Exactly, and that's one of the things where we're used to seeing those exclusion zones, or the notice to mariners, the not Mars, as well as notice to airmen, formerly air missions, NOTAMs. So they have areas that they ask people to keep out of for that exact reason of the booster will be coming back down, and there's the risk that pieces don't burn up, or when Falcon 9 does get ripped, or Falcon Heavy center core, gets if it gets ripped apart from some of those aerodynamic forces and pieces do come down, it just splashes harmlessly into the ocean and doesn't hit any boaters or any people that might be downrange.
Very, very interesting. Now, we have gotten a lot of questions. So we'll be talking about this throughout the whole stream as we approach 90 minutes until launch. But this is, of course, going to be the first ever double recovery at Landing Zone 2 and Landing Zone 40. And Julia, those two pads are very far apart on the Space Coast. They're not next door to each other like LZ1 and LZ2. So from your experience, where do you think are going to be the best spots to see both boosters come back, one going to Landing Zone 2 and the other coming back at Landing Zone 40?
Well, I mean, very far apart is a relative term as far as if you're viewing on site. So it's not going to look as far away as people who normally watch launches from the coast are used to seeing. You know what? My bet is still going to be if you go down to the beach, because booster recovery, I would say, as a viewer, is probably the highlight of watching a Falcon Heavy launch. It is really cool to see it lifting off and clearing the tower, right? But as we progress into it, you're going to see it coming downrange. So no matter what, you'll get a view of Falcon Heavy. With that being said, I still think Jetty Park, Cherry Down Park, all the way down to Cocoa Beach will be great with this trajectory. It's not going to change how you view landing, but landing will look significantly different, and you're going to find yourself trying to figure out which booster you want to track, because it might be a little bit harder to track it with your own eyes, and I don't know. It's one of those things we don't get to see often around here, something new, something different, something unique about a launch, and I'm kind of excited to see how it all works out. But you can't go wrong kind of no matter where you go here on the Space Coast as far as viewing that landing. South is always going to be best for this. Yeah, but relative terms, they are definitely not going to be like that really cool side-by-side landing that you can kind of get in one frame if you're SpaceX and setting up your cameras at landing zones. It's going to be spaced out, y'all, and that's kind of cool to me. I don't know as a photographer which one I'm going to try and pick. Guess we'll see.
You have to figure out which one is most visible in the moment, I guess, because, yeah, this is going to be very interesting for us to bring to you live as well, because we have we have multiple cameras, but we need to make sure that the cameras are, specifically identifying individual boosters. We are going to have, two flying objects, very different parts of the frame, depending where you're watching from. So we're all
And you
kind
know
of
what?
watching this for the first time together.
And these clouds may decide exactly which one you're going to personally watch from your perspective.
We have a question here from Steve, and they are asking, what does SpaceX do with the upper stage? Sawyer, usually for Starlink launches and Falcon 9 launches, they dispose it into the ocean, but as far as I know, this time around, we haven't actually seen any notices indicating they're going to do that. So what are they doing with the upper stage?
Yeah. So for missions like this, when you're going all the way up to geostationary or near geostationary orbit, that's pretty far away. And so rather than having to do all this work to then add extra propellant up there to try and deorbit that and bring it down and then run the risk of it, coming in at such a high speed and velocity and trajectory and all that, they just dispose of it in what's known as a graveyard orbit. So there are orbits that they have, which is basically a place that after satellites get dropped off and things, they put the second stages or any other spent stages up there as a way to just keep it out of the way from normal satellite operations, where they can track them so they don't crash into each other or any other satellites. So it's going to stay up there, but stay up in an orbit with all the other kind of quote unquote space junk that was left over from these launches.
Thank you to Good Joe Guy for another bit of support here, greatly appreciated. And we have Resisto Jet asking, do we know how heavy the payload is? And yes, we do. According to Next Spaceflight, it is 6,400 kilos, which is on the lighter side if you consider how much Starlink satellites weigh and how many they pack into a fairing these days. That is 14,100 pounds for our American friends. Cheeky conversion.
Yeah, our 250-year freedom units.
Yeah. Let's have a look through here. Great question from Flipper79 McGregor. They are asking, how much lasagna can I carry to Mars on Falcon Heavy? Well, according to SpaceX's user guide, it's meant to be able to do 16.8 metric tons to Mars. So theoretically, it's 16.8 metric tons of lasagna. Whether you'd want to eat the lasagna by the time it gets to Mars after being in space for 2 years, I'm not too sure. But I mean, no one's going to stop you. Jeffrey is asking, how are they doing return to launch site with the booster landing pad now they are separated? Max, I'm sure, as far as I am aware, we're expecting it to be, just like normal. They've landed at landing zone 2 plenty of times, and they've landed at landing zone 40 a couple times at this point. It's just the first time that they're going to be doing it with 2 at once. But the boosters fly themselves, so as far as I know, there shouldn't really be any concern of any crossover or anything, because, well, the boosters are completely independent from time they separate.
Well, you say that in terms of crossover, but if the data from flightclub.io is to be believed, well, I think so. The way Falcon Heavy is going to roll, so what from our perspective here at the press site, Falcon Heavy is going to be rolling to its left, and then it'll be flying more or less flat, heading out in an eastern direction. And you would think the left booster would be coming to LZ40, and the right booster would be going to LZ2. That's not the case. The left booster is going to LZ2 and the right booster is going to LZ40. So at some point, those two side cores are going to have to cross over each other. And it looks like that is going to be not long after the boost back burn, after they loop back up and begin their journey back here towards the coast. So there is going to be a bit of a crossover there. I'm not entirely sure why, to be perfectly honest. I don't have a good solid reasoning for that. But they will be crossing over each other at some point in the flight if that data is to be believed and if it's accurate. I'm not saying it's not. I just have no idea. I have no way of actually fact checking that. So I think it's going to be they will be crossing over, and I think given the current conditions in the sky being where the sun is, that might be a bit trickier to track because it'll be they're going to be flying directly almost into the sun based on where the sun is now, and will be in about an hour and a half's time. So we'll see. Hopefully the weather plays nice and we don't have any clouds obstructing our views, and hopefully our cameras pick up when those do eventually cross over.
Indeed. Oh, this is a great one as well. I'm going to go around the entire room here. Saad is asking, how many total flights do you see Falcon Heavy flying before retiring? 20 to 25 question mark? Sorry, let's start with you. How many flights total do you think Falcon Heavy will fly before retiring?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, once Starship is online, that's gonna take out most of the Falcon Heavy mission load. I mean, obviously, we're expecting at least 3 this year, including the one on the pad right now. So that would be 14 flights this year. There's a couple other ones that they have contracted out already, a couple of NASA missions. And again, those are ones where NASA's like, hey, we know that your Falcon Heavy is pretty trusty and reliable because we have flight heritage and data to prove that. Whereas Starship is still on the newer side and still in the experimental phase. So I think we can get to 20. I don't know how much farther beyond that, but I think 20 is a safe bet.
What do you think, Julia? Do you think 20 is a safe bet, or do you want more Falcon Heavies?
First of all, it's feast or famine with that one, right? Either we have nothing for a year and a half, or holy cow, we have 4 missions, and it all I suppose depends on what payloads need that lift to orbit. With that being said, yeah, once we have Starship online and consistently able to, do customer missions, I guess just like Falcon, we're going to see, kind of another retired bird. So I think I'm in line with Sawyer. No more than 25, probably closer to 20, and I bet you we see another year-long gap in between this year and this year's launches and the next set of them.
Any other thoughts, Max?
I mean, I think I'm going to say probably in the neighborhood of 25 to 30 because there are still NASA missions that Falcon Heavy still has left to fly. And there are also some missions left to fly with both the U.S. Space Force and the U.S. Department of Defense. And Lord knows how much the DoD loves big, heavy, powerful rockets beyond Falcon 9. So I think Falcon Heavy still has some life in it, but I think that will be affected by how much or how soon Starship itself can be viable either commercially and for payloads such as for the DoD and Space Force alike. So I think there's still a bit more life in it, but I could be totally wrong on that, and it might fly only 10 more times. I mean, we'll have to wait and find out. But we do know that it should be flying it 2 to 3 more times at least this year if all goes well. So as for after that, it's up to whoever is on the launch manifest.
Well, if SpaceX wants to retire Falcon Heavy, the DoD can just launch on Vulcan, right? Right?
Oh my gosh.
Everyone loves Vulcan right now because Vulcan's doing great.
Wow. Well, I mean, it's all right. At least they've got the new up-and-comer New Glenn coming, and there's been no issues with that, right?
Yeah, New Glenn, great at getting to orbit, the targeted orbit, 66% of the time.
All right, so I'm gonna throw a positive into this conversation, and as a photographer, Max Sawyer, how about one of these Falcon Heavy missions? Please maybe have a launch time in the evening so that we can see this landing profile in a streak shot. How about that?
So I think one of the prettiest, I think if not the prettiest Falcon Heavy mission to have flown yet, it was the USSF 67 mission, which launched in January of 2023. And that launched maybe, oh gosh, I want to say it was maybe 10 or 15 minutes after sunset. And because of the flight profile, Falcon Heavy, all 3 cores had to fly into the sun because the sky was dark at that point, but the rocket itself and its exhaust was in the sun. We were able to track all 3 cores, both side cores coming back to LZ1 and 2 at that point, and then the core in the middle hitting all the way downrange, almost toward the horizon, and almost doubling its velocity within minutes. So I think just just post sunset Falcon Heavy missions, I think are supreme. Although that being said, like the GOES-U mission back in June of 2024 was also very pretty, as was the Arabsat-6A mission, which also launched in the evening back in 2019. Or was it 19? 18? I don't remember when that
No,
one was.
18 was the demo mission.
Yeah, I thought there was one more in 18, but I guess not. But it's also weird because Falcon Heavy has existed both in Block 4 and Block 5 designs with Falcon. The Falcon Heavy demo was actually the only Block 4 design derived Falcon Heavy to fly. With the non-titanium grid fins and then the non-white landing legs and interstage at that point as well. But of course, that all changed with the Arabsat-6A mission being the first of the Block 5 derived Falcon heavy missions, and that has been the case ever since. Although that being said, we have had two heavies expended at this point of the 12, but alas, we may have more depending on mission profiles here, but we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, I remember that dusk one. I mean, you got essentially a jellyfish from the two side cores as they were coming back. You saw all of the cold gas jet thrusters as they were steering themselves, and they kind of just lingered around the cores. So you could follow the two side boosters and the core because you basically had 3 mini jellyfishes as it was going. That one was spectacular. That was, I think it was one of my earlier NSF launches. I was over there with Chris G here at the press site watching that one, and we were all just like, Chris G, those who remember when he was here, Chris Gebhardt, the noises he would make during launches, he was having a ball during that one.
Yeah, that was one of my first launches with NSF2, watching remotely, and yeah, that was a very, very pretty one, to say the least, watching that one live. We have got loads more to discuss with Falcon Heavy, but very briefly, Space Enthusiast has a great leading question here, asking if we can confirm Pegasus is arriving at port. And I can confirm Pegasus is arriving at port. Whoosh, there we go.
Nice.
Live from one of our fleet cams on the right-hand side. That is NASA's Pegasus barge, and inside of that barge is most of the core stage for Artemis 3, the next SLS launch. No longer going to the moon, it's only going to Earth orbit, but that is a big, big step in the Artemis program. Sailing on by through Port Canaveral right now. I think NASA said the upper 4/5 of the SLS core stage for Artemis 3 is inside of that barge because this time around they're doing things a little bit differently. They are mating the engine section at the Kennedy Space Center instead of at the Michoud Assembly Facility in New Orleans, Louisiana. So very exciting to see that arriving. It's going to take a few hours to actually get to the turn basin at the KSC, so we're not expecting a New Glenn incident, just instead of a cruise ship sailing in front of Falcon Heavy, it's the Pegasus barge sailing in front of Falcon Heavy. But it should be getting here later today, and fingers crossed we see the offload this week, maybe tomorrow, but we'll just have to wait and see how the schedules hold on that one. So great to see Pegasus making its way into port, and yeah, it's always a good day when this barge arrives because it means there's some new presents for NASA to unpack at the Kennedy Space Center.
God, that would have been tragic, wouldn't it have been? This Pegasus passing right in front of the pad at T0. Good grief!
Don't jinx it.
It's not that fast. It's not going to make that.
I know, yeah. For those who don't know, so it's going through, you see there our fleet cam, which is over at Rusty's at the port. And that is right at the basically entrance from the ocean itself. They then have to go through a set of locks, and that takes them over to the Banana River side of things. And then once it does that, they specifically had carved out essentially a like mini waterway to be able to bring things here to the vehicle assembly building at the Kennedy Space Center. So that was used going back to Saturn V stages for all of the shuttle stages, or excuse me, the shuttle orange external tanks, and now for all the Artemis ones. So this was specifically designed, this little waterway here, to be able to bring these barges with the rocket parts to the VAB.
And speaking of rocket parts being barged to Florida, bringing it back to SpaceX, Julia, Starship, initially, all of those ships and boosters are also going to be barged to Florida. And we recently also got the news that Just Read the Instructions is being reassigned to be part of that effort.
Yeah, so that was kind of a whiplash day for those of us who follow the fleet. Like, excuse me, what did you just say in the middle of the night? About a drone ship retiring and no longer okay. But then a lot of things kind of happened in rapid succession. Like Marmac 31 will be, as we know, she's currently been hauling ground systems tanks. And believe it or not, what you're seeing here in our screens about Pegasus, and you see the structure of Pegasus, that may very well be the future of what booster and ship transport look like. So it's going to follow this same route from the Gulf to here and ultimately toward the Turn Basin. My guess is that Mac 31 disappeared on me the other day. I saw it in the morning and then I didn't see it. And I had to do some digging and figuring, and then I saw a random tug doing a random thing going back to a to its home, and I went, I wonder. And lo and behold, the thing I thought I lost, I found, at least on tracking. And it looks like it may be transferring that particular little barge into its role of starship booster and ship transport. And it may, my guess, be looking something like Pegasus when it's all done. Maybe not fully enclosed, but probably having some sort of protective covering on top, just because saltwater spray kind of from the ocean at the pad is a little bit different than maybe putting it out in elements at sea. But then I'm glad to see that that particular barge made it through the lock. Right now, Florida is in, well, a drought condition. And thankfully, our part of Florida is in a lesser part of this drought going on, which can limit what may be able to go through the lock. So the other day with that barge going through, it gave me more hope that Pegasus won't have any trouble because our water levels are kind of low right now. So if you're watching that going to the lock on our live feed, you might notice off shore sides, we do have some reduced draft going on. But here we are, and Pegasus is coming, and the fleet is doing some flip flops now. And I think when Just Read the Instructions went offline for boosters, it triggered the other barge going online for ships boosters, but horizontal. Anyone who's thinking that's going to come vertical, no, it's not. That's not going to happen. That's all going to be horizontal transport. That is the safest way to transport space hardware before flight.
Got a bit of a rotation going on for Pegasus. Not sure.
It's like drifting.
Yeah, I'm not sure where they're going, but lock is the other way, mate.
Right? Like,
Unless they're just pulling off to the side for a moment.
I mean, that's
Maybe.
possible without being there and knowing what's going on by the lock. That's
I mean,
possible.
unless the
Yeah.
actual drawbridge, so there's the so that going westbound through the port, there is a drawbridge before they actually get to the lock. So unless that's up, obviously they can't pass. Maybe they're just slowing down and holding. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, they're definitely not going straight at the moment.
And there are other cruise ships in port right now, so I don't know if they need
Yes.
to wait for one of those to leave, but I know there's a Disney cruise, I think, that is set to leave from there today. So it is one of the busier cruise ports here in the United States at Port Canaveral.
If not the busiest, actually. I think it is. I think. I mean, it could be. This could be. Blah. Like this could be out of date by now, but I think Port Canaveral was rated the busiest cruise port in the world. I'm not quite sure how that rates to the. Yes, it is the busiest, circa 2025 from Jerry. Thank you. So I'm not quite sure how that also translates into industrial and cargo. But there certainly are no shortage of spots to dock, at least over there. I mean, there might be now for cruise ships because every single cruise port, I think, right now on Mondays is taken. But so the biggest cruise days in Port Canaveral are Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, especially Saturday and Sunday. But Mondays, you do tend to see almost all, if not all, cruise ports filled up, usually all but one, normally.
Oh, it's usually well, currently it's a 6 ship
Oh,
day.
And there goes that drawbridge there in the background going up. Look at that, right on cue.
Whoa, this is awesome. We should. I think
Right.
we should just watch Pegasus come in from now on. Falcon Heavy. Who cares? It's been 1.5 years. Who cares? I'm interested in seeing Pegasus go under the drawbridge.
So there's Texas tank watching and Florida barge watching.
Well, technically we're tank watching too, Max. It's just different.
We
I
just
mean-
can't see the tank.
Exactly. So we're not technically tank watching, we're barge watching.
Also, feel bad for anyone who's a little late to work today and now has to go over that bridge.
That
Yeah,
is
I've-
wait a few
really
minutes.
annoying.
Yeah,
that
I've been
is
stuck
really
behind that
annoying.
bridge. I'm sure you have too. I've been stuck behind that bridge. It's a long one. It's annoying.
There also used to be a drawbridge on the 405 Causeway, which is like one of the main roads that leads from Merritt Island, which is where the KSC is, over towards the Florida mainland around the Port St. John Titusville area. There used to be a drawbridge over there, and then I think a couple of years ago they began construction on a brand new causeway over there that is a bit higher and no longer requires a drawbridge in that area, which is quite nice because you also used to get stuck over there at times as well for that drawbridge for sailboats and other things, which caused a traffic backup for quite a long ways. But thankfully that is not the case anymore, at least over there. But the same cannot be said over here in port.
It is definitely drifting towards the bridge.
It is.
I'm
Full on
gonna
like
go through
Tokyo
some more.
drift.
Yeah. I'm going to go through some more questions, but I would like if we could keep this on the screen because I'm absolutely fascinated by the barge approaching the bridge. We were talking about more Falcon Heavy missions in the future, Sawyer, and how many we think are left. W1 Base is asking, how far off is Falcon Heavy from Vandenberg? Because, of course, SpaceX is currently working on building out Space Launch Complex 6, the former shuttle and then Delta 4 pad for Falcon operations.
Ooh, of course you asked the East Coast, West Coast guy about the West Coast launch pad. I see where this is going. But yeah, that was originally the plan, was to use Slick 6 out at Vandenberg, which is on the West Coast in California, for Falcon Heavy, so that eventually they'd be able to do more either polar or sun synchronous type trajectories, which you can technically do from here, but it's a lot easier out there in California because then you don't have to do a curve around Miami, because yeah, it turns out you don't want to fly rocket parts directly over one of the more populated cities in the United States. So I haven't heard any updates on that yet. I know that was the plan, was to be able to launch them from the West Coast, but I'm not sure.
And we're now seeing some venting from the transporter erector at Launch Complex 39A. So looks like a little bit of venting going on from the base as well. So the rocket and the ground support equipment is starting to come alive as we get ready for propellant load, which, if SpaceX continues to target the opening of the window, the launch director will verify go for propellant load at T-minus 53 minutes, which will be 28 minutes past the hour. And then they'll actually start loading RP1 on the first stage at T-minus 50 minutes, which will be 31 minutes past the hour. So we're just a few minutes away from that taking place, if indeed SpaceX continues to target the opening of the window. As a reminder, as they said earlier, they're keeping an eye on the weather, so we'll just have to wait and see if they decide if that part of the launch window is going to give them their best bet for that liftoff today. The Space Force predicting 70% go for launch. And there's the entire countdown on the left-hand side of what we are expecting to see from Falcon Heavy today. Max, of course, the Falcon Heavy timeline is a little bit more prolonged than the Falcon 9 timeline. Of course, there's a little bit more volume to fill up.
Yep.
Typically on Falcon 9, we see that starting around 38 minutes before launch. This time it's 50 minutes before launch.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have literally 3 times the amount of prop to fill, at least on the first stages, right? So that takes a little bit longer. But that being said, as well, the second stage RP1 still begins at T-minus 35, and then we should see the normal 20-minute, 20-second vent or thereabouts in preparation for stage 2 LOX load. But yeah, there is a lot more RP1 and a lot more locks to fill on those 3 cores, so that's why it takes a little bit longer. But all that being said, though, it really isn't that much longer than normal. I mean, normally prop load on the first stage begins at T minus 35, and in this case, it's only starting 15 minutes earlier, which is not that long for 3 times the amount of prop on board the vehicle. But it means that there is just that there's just that much more to talk about as we see some more activity over there on the TE and over at the base of the pad as teams get ready to load the vehicle with all commodities.
Indeed. So, what this is, just to be absolutely extra clear to any new people who might be joining us for their first ever launch, that is normal. We always expect venting from the GSC and from the rocket and everything like that. So nothing of concern there at all. This is exactly what you would usually see at a launch pad as the rocket gets ready for launch. And I think Pegasus is now transiting below the bridge. Unless my eyes are deceiving me. It's quite difficult because the
Yeah.
camera's quite zoomed in and it's quite far away, but I think if it's not there already, it's getting very, very close to going under the bridge.
It's also not drifting anymore.
It is straight on with the is it a canal? Or is it like a
It's a lock, right? I mean,
lock?
so
Yeah,
they have
but like
to
under the bridge
change.
part.
Yeah, I mean, they have to change the water levels ever so slightly, and that's where the lock comes in. And they should have to, well, I guess so after they traverse through the lock, they're going to be going right up the Banana River there, and heading north into the area of the Space Force Station and the Kennedy Space Center. So, think there's 1 or 2 more drawbridges it has to go over. One for sure is on the NASA Causeway, which is technically still on KSC property, but that's like right on the border of KSC and the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. I think that's the last one though. So only 2 drawbridges in total. I think there might be a third one in there that I'm forgetting.
No, it's just that next one after this one. Just 2.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Yep.
So
And by the way, technically Ryan was right. It is the barge canal that lock is a part of.
Okay.
Get
Canal.
in. This is following on from the New Glenn arrival stream we did last week when GS1 Never Tell Me the Odds was coming back into port, and I was I was very worried about using the wrong maritime terms and getting absolutely roasted in chat for it. But I think I managed to get away with it throughout that stream. So yeah, canal it is. Let's see here. For some more questions, we have a great question here from Dino asking, could Falcon Heavy launch payloads to the moon? I'm going to give this one to Max, and I'm going to say, technically, it is contracted to launch some elements of a space station around the moon.
Oh God. Yeah, technically Falcon Heavy has been selected to launch segments of the Lunar Gateway, but as we have talked about numerous times, and it feels like beating a dead horse at this point, the Lunar Gateway is on hold right now. In other words, to us, that means it's not happening. And that being said as well, 2 of its modules are currently corroded, where they are currently being built and assembled. So we'll see what happens there. Oh God, I don't want to talk about Gateway again, Ryan. Why'd you give that one to me?
Well, why don't we talk about something that isn't Gateway? Because of course it's scheduled
Oh,
to launch the
goodness.
Astrobotic Griffin lander later
Yep.
this year. Whoopee!
That's what I was gonna say until you mentioned the Forbidden Gateway word. So yeah, but that is currently scheduled for July of this year, so it will be going to the moon sooner than later. There might be one more in there as well, but it has launched payloads from all over. It has launched. It obviously launched Elon Musk's Tesla Roadster to an interplanetary trajectory back in February of 2018. It has also launched plenty of payloads into low Earth orbit and geostationary transfer orbit. So, yeah, it has launched everything, anything, and everything basically to every single orbit so far, except lunar. But that will be coming up soon.
Speaking of something also kind of related, Space Reactor 1 Freedom That is a new spacecraft Sawyer that NASA is building with the power and propulsion element. Do you think that could launch on Falcon Heavy?
I mean, I definitely think it's possible that it could. I don't know the exact specifications of it, though, and the mass and all of that. Obviously, that will dictate what vehicle can launch it, the mass, and where it's going to do its initial orbit. So I wouldn't rule it out, but we'll see.
That would be it would be like Falcon Heavy collecting Infinity Stones of nuclear payloads at that point, because that would be on top of a Dragonfly that would also, of course, be nuclear powered. What's the second one? I forgot what the second one was. Was it Rosalind Franklin? Is that got
Yes.
nuclear on
Yes, it
board?
was. Yes, it was. You're correct.
Look at me keeping an eye on This Week in Spaceflight every Friday with all of our spaceflight news. It's not like I edit it and watch every single second of content we put out and, somewhat sort of remember it.
Mind you as well, Ryan, remember, they have actually been testing, or they have tested extended payload fairings for Falcon Heavy for larger payloads, which we have yet to see fly, but we have seen those over at Pad 40 doing some acoustic testing before sometime in the last year. I think maybe it's longer than that. I don't know. Maybe a couple of years. It's been a while, I think, hasn't it? But we still have yet to see what those are going to be used for, and those fairings, as far as we are aware, are not going to be recovered whenever those do end up flying. I think those are going to be needed for Gateway, but for whatever reason, I mean, depending on what the National Reconnaissance Office wants to launch, or what have you, we'll see. We will have to see when those will be used.
Yeah, I mean, Dennis has literally asked that question. How easy would it be for SpaceX to increase the payload fairing size to accommodate more payloads for Falcon Heavy? And that is something SpaceX is actively working on. We've seen the Giga fairing on the flyovers. They've been testing those, but they haven't actually flown them, and they haven't really said if/when/what would be flying those extended fairings. But yeah, it's certainly, if that ever happens, it's not gonna look right.
I think my gut just tells me we might see that once or twice. I don't know why, but I don't think we're going to see that on a Falcon 9. I mean, it is possible. We very well could see that on a fully expendable Falcon 9. But my gut tells me we may only see this on Heavy once or twice, depending on what's being launched. I don't know.
Indeed. I do. The proportions just look right for the Falcon 9 fairings as they are right now,
It's like borderline Titan 3, Titan 4-ish.
Yeah, that would just be ginormous. Okay, we have crossed under 1 hour until the opening of the launch window, and I'm going to be very careful to say opening of the launch window because we have information from SpaceX that the weather has deteriorated to 55% go for launch. So not, the direction we want to be going in, but it is still more go than not go right now. 55%. SpaceX has launched in much worse conditions when there's a much lower probability of go compared to what we have today. So I'm not going to be all doom and gloom about it and say that it's unlikely we'll see a launch, because they've launched in far worse. So, but again, it's something that SpaceX will be keeping an eye on as we progress towards liftoff. Our first indication of when exactly SpaceX is targeting to launch Falcon Heavy will be when they confirm if the launch director is go or no go for propellant load. That's scheduled to come up in 2 minutes time. So I'm not expecting to hear the result of that poll in 2 minutes time. But fingers crossed we'll hear from SpaceX after that point when they are going to be loading propellant on the vehicle. Because, of course, once Falcon Heavy is into propellant load, that sets in stone the launch time for today, as SpaceX uses super chilled propellant to thermally condition that prop and make it as dense as possible and fit as much prop as possible into the rocket to increase performance. So if they have to leave it out in the sun, it will get too hot, less dense, and not be able to fulfill its performance capabilities.
And it's worth noting that last year, I mean, we had a launch that lifted off. It was originally, I think it was 15% favorable, and the weather cleared up. And we also had one where the weather was 90% favorable, and weather caused them to not launch that day. And those were within a couple months of each other. So it's Florida weather. You never know.
Indeed, indeed. Let's have a look here. We have another question. Another question here from Naviat. They're asking, if SpaceX had 3 drone ships in the Atlantic, would it be possible to do a triple booster landing? Well, yes, Sawyer, but they don't even have 2 anymore. They only have 1. And that raises the interesting question, because if they need to do a double drone ship recovery for Falcon Heavy, how? How?
That's been my question too, because I believe it was Kiko Donchev with SpaceX who in a recent post basically said that they still would have the opportunity to attempt the make that downrange landing happen, even though they are down to only one barge ship or drone ship right now. Just read the instructions, as we talked about early in the broadcast, was just recently transitioned from Falcon landings over to being a Starship transport ship. So right now there's just a shortfall of gravitas. Their other drone ship, of course, I Still Love You, is supporting launches out on the West Coast. And you'll thank me later, the new one they acquired is also still for Starship transport. So I don't know if they would have the capability to. I mean, we were joking, see if you could land 2 boosters on one drone ship, squeeze them right next to each other, but I don't know. Apparently there is supposed to be a way. You can see there that bottom line in that X post that's on the screen right now.
I mean, there is technically enough real estate on top of a shortfall of gravitas to accommodate dual boosters, but they need to be insanely accurate in terms of where they come down. Because of course, Falcon 9 is not like Super Heavy in the fact that it cannot hover and come in slowly where it wants to. Because of the even throttled all the way down on borderline empty tanks on a singular Merlin engine on landing, there is still too much thrust from that singular Merlin engine to hover. So it has to perform what's called a hover slam, or more, I guess, unlovingly called a suicide burn, right? So it has to fire its engine as late as possible to hit the deck of the drone ship at nearly zero, at a velocity of nearly zero, and they have to do that twice in a very, very small area of space. Still big enough to hold 2 of them technically, but Falcon 9 needs to be incredibly accurate to do that, and that's asking a lot, and certainly a lot more, I think, technically, than what they ask Super Heavy to do, because Super Heavy can translate if it needs to over a very slow velocity, whereas Falcon boosters cannot do that. But like that would be so cool to see. I know that was something we kind of like thought about a couple of years ago, I think it was, when it was first hinted at. But it sounds like that is going to be their only option, unless there's something else in the works, if they want to recover both side cores downrange at some point. So we will have to see what happens, as we often say.
I mean, Max, hear me out. 2 booster landings on some little island somewhere, if it's a southerly trajectory. I mean, there might be other non-drone ship options or drone ship and island options, right?
Yeah, but that's a bit of a headache. It's not as simple as that. In terms of leasing the land, building the LZ, shipping all of your equipment there to service the booster, get it broken down, and then arranging transport for both. I don't know. That seems like too much of a headache for me. And especially for something that may only happen like once or twice, maybe 3 times. I don't know what they're planning. It's a cool thought. It'd be kind of rad to actually see that happen, but I don't think that's going to be a reality.
I have an idea. I think it's a brilliant idea, and
What's
it's
your
much
idea?
more than the plan not even mentioned by Kiko Donchev. What if SpaceX rented Jacqueline?
Oh my God, Ryan. Jesus.
Ryan,
Where's Jacqueline?
There it is.
It already has Starlink on board.
I mean, well, he has a point there. He's on a line, but he's right.
I guess. I mean, I
mean-
don't know. Extra revenue. Yeah.
New Glenn isn't going to be
But-
flying anytime soon, so they haven't got any New Glens to not catch, but receive. Just an idea. Just an idea.
What
Or
about the
maybe they'll land on
octograbber?
the transport ship.
Because New Glenn uses harpoons to secure itself down, whereas Falcon 9 needs a little octograbber that rolls out and secures it to the drone ship.
Well, they have a spare octograbber from Just Read the Instructions. What if they take the octograbber from Just Read the Instructions off of that vessel, just store it in port somewhere, and then just put it on Jacqueline, and then ramp Jacqueline? This is a flawless plan.
Wow.
I'm available for hire, SpaceX. Anything you need. Great ideas. It will 100% guarantee of working. Not sponsored. Let's see.
Unless they
here.
want to.
Unless they want to. Wouldn't say no. I'm going to hit some more support because we've gotten a lot of support. Leetard, thank you for your support. Bideford, always in chat. Bideford, thank you for your support. Love Falcon Heavy. It is a great rocket, and fingers crossed we get to see it launch soon. Maybe in 48 minutes. We'll just have to wait and see the result of that go, no go for propellant load, which should have happened about 5 minutes ago now. Adrian, thank you for your support. I just tuned into this live stream, and the first thing I heard was Ryan ambushing Max with a question about Gateway. My apologies. And that diabetic kid asking if anybody's at Player Linda. I don't know if anyone's at Player Linda, but I do know we have people at the press site and people south. So, well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see from the live views what we do get to see. But the landing pads are to the south of the launch pad, so that's why we are going to be looking on from the south. And of course, from this view, which is at the press site where you are, Max.
Indeed, but as you had just mentioned Playa Linda Beach, Ryan, I think on my drive into the Space Center this morning, I went in through the north entrance to KSC, and that goes right by the entrance to Playa Linda Beach, and the gates were open. I saw people going in there, so it looks like Playa Linda Beach is open today. So cutting it a bit short on time here, but it looks like if you are going to be at Playa Linda Beach today, that is going to be a great view because that is about the closest that the public can get, minus the Saturn V Center. The Saturn V Center over here at the Kennedy Space Center as well through the visitor complex. So, yes, views for Falcon Heavy today should be fantastic no matter where you are.
It is a big rocket, so it's kind of hard to miss.
True.
Let's see here. Ari is asking, is Falcon Heavy launching it to a direct geostationary orbit or to a geostationary transfer orbit? Sawyer, I'll hand this one over to you. I'm pretty sure it's still going to a transfer orbit. It's just a very, very, very much more powerful transfer orbit than we'd see with, say, a Falcon 9.
Yeah, so we talk about direct geo. It's almost direct geo. So there's different types of geostationary transfer orbits. There's the one that we normally see with Falcon 9, and then at that point the satellite does the majority of the work from that point. The electric engine that they have on this satellite bus is good, but not that good. So what they want to do is get it as close to geostationary orbit as possible. And if I remember rightly, they're getting extremely close to it. So it won't be that big of a burn to then get into a final geo orbit. So it's a almost direct geo.
Indeed. And speaking of the live views we can see right now, CJ is asking, how are the views for the Starship launch on the Florida coast? I mean, this is one of the views. We can see a great view of the Starship pad at Launch Complex 39A. Space Launch Complex 37 is a little bit hidden by trees, and it's on the Space Force side, so we can't, just set up shop and start live streaming from over there. So that's a little bit more difficult to spot. But I mean, we're going to have great views of 39A, and that's where Starship is going to be launching from first. So fingers crossed. I mean, looks good view. Looks like good views to me, and we can see all the bits on the top of the launch mount. So heat haze in Florida, not fantastic, but make with what you can. Make do with what you can.
Well, and Ryan, let's be honest. If they're aiming for airport-like operations, their least concern is whether or not media has view.
Yeah, that is another great point. Slightly to our detriment, but that is a great point. Let's see here. Again, if you are just joining us, feel free to tag us in chat at NASA Spaceflight or at NSF with any questions or comments. I'm just kind of in a bit of a holding pattern here because 9 minutes ago, the launch director should have verified go for propellant load, with propellant load starting 6 minutes ago. However, we have not heard from SpaceX since 1 hour before launch. So I'm just going to hold on for a second and see if we do get any information because it has been a little while now, and fingers crossed we should have heard from SpaceX whether they are getting into propellant load or not.
And you know what, Ryan? Like, totally random thought, but what anyone off the top of their head remember the last time we did launch a rocket from 39A and then we stalled launches from there until Falcon Heavy just so that Starship construction could be focused on. So this pad is just waking up itself. Not that I honestly think that's exactly the reason why, maybe we haven't heard anything, but without this ship having static fired, didn't need to, I guess. Yeah, this pad's just waking up now. So good morning, 39A.
It has been a little while. So I'm gonna look back through next spaceflight online and in the iOS and Google Play app stores. The last launch from this pad was a Falcon 9 back in December of 2025. So it's been a good 4 months and a bit since the last launch from here. So they're just GSE just needs to get in gear. Might just need a bit of a stretch, a little bit of encouragement, a little bit of enthusiasm.
I mean, there's
The Starship side has been active, but not the Falcon side.
I mean, it's the first time that this pad has been active in a while, but it's also the first time that it's been active for a Falcon Heavy in a year and a half, right? So, and obviously with the Heavy, you have you have 3 cores to fuel instead of 1. So there's a bit more going on, and they're asking a bit more from the pad systems than they normally otherwise would. So maybe they found something that they're not entirely happy with, or there is some weather concern in the area that they're trying to mitigate. So,
or we could say frost.
I don't see any. Wait, is there frost?
Yeah, you can see it if you look on the leftmost booster there.
I'm trying to look. I don't know.
It's really bright when you're looking from the press site toward the pad,
Yeah.
y'all. So
That's why I'm
forgive us
pulling it
if
up.
we're not 100% sure what we are or not seeing because the rocket itself is kind of in shadow to us.
Yeah, next to that little white bit there, you can kind of see it.
Yes, I think I can kind of.
Yeah, that's not heat haze. That's actual ventiness, or the sublimation of it.
Cool. Science.
Yeah.
Good news. Propellant load is underway. And now that propellant load is underway, it's not very often that we get a Falcon Heavy launch. At least it's been 18 months since the last Falcon Heavy launch, 1.5 years. It's been a little while. So, you might have forgotten that in the store we do have an entire Falcon Heavy collection. We love a Falcon Heavy launch. It's wonderful to see a Falcon Heavy launch, and our Falcon Heavy design is now available as a snapback trucker hat. It's also, on the t-shirts and on the hoodies, and I think it's on a mug as well. So it's great to see this awesome Falcon Heavy design. Sorry, I even think you were wearing this design at Remote Set yesterday. And if you like the engines as well, we've got the Merlin design in the thrust collection. So plenty of cool Falcon Heavy merch at shop.nasaspaceflight.com. There it is. So much cool stuff. And we've got the Merlins there as well.
By the way, Ryan, I was wearing that yesterday, the black one for the Heavy shirt, and today I'm wearing the gray one of the Heavy shirt. So I own 2 of them. They're that awesome.
NSF represent. Yeah, I mean, I love the E is Falcon Heavy in the Heavy. I think it's and it also makes up part of the A. I just think it's a very clever design, and yeah, it's one of the older ones in the store, but it doesn't make it any less good. It's great to see in the Falcon Heavy collection. We've got a whole page in the store dedicated to Falcon Heavy. If you want to stock up your wardrobe with some Falcon Heavy merchandise, in addition to all the other things we have in the store. There you go. Shop.nasaspaceflight.com, especially that cool snapback trucker hat with the Falcon Heavy design. We're going to continue counting down. So for those of you just joining us, we have seen and can continue to see frost on one of the side boosters. That one is booster 1072. This will only be its second flight. It's I would say it's the rookie of the flight, but it isn't, because the center core is brand new. It's never flown before, and it will be getting expended on this flight. So that's a single-use center core. But in terms of the side boosters, B1072 is the youngest. It has flown once before on GOES-U, the last Falcon Heavy launch to recover a side core, and that was back in June of 2024. Feel old yet? And just
I already
speaking-
did, but thanks.
making
I
it
was,
worse.
I was just going to say you're not helping the situation, but okay.
And just to make it worse, because I feel like making it worse. Oh, big vent from the TE. That's great. It's been a little while. We've been talking about this quite a lot. It's been a little while since the last Falcon Heavy launched. The last time that Falcon Heavy launched was October of 2024. Specifically, it launched on October 14th of 2024. And if you remember, if you cast your minds back, that was the day after Starship Flight 5, which is when that incredible first ever Super Heavy booster catch took place at Starbase with Super Heavy Booster 12. That is how long it has been since Falcon Heavy last launched, October 14th, 2024. Since then, we've had Starship Flight 6, the entire Starship V2 program. We've been doing loop-de-loops over Texas and into the Turks and Caicos Islands. And we've been making it through to splashdown in the Indian Ocean a couple times as well. But all of that happened between the last Falcon Heavy launch and this Falcon Heavy launch. Just a little bit of perspective. Also, if you want to make it even worse than it already is, the last time that Falcon Heavy launched, Jared Isaacman was just an entrepreneur with a big passion for private spaceflight and a little bit of cash in his pocket. Now he's the administrator of NASA. Imagine if you were told that Jared Isaacman was going to be administrator of NASA the last time Falcon Heavy was vertical on the pad. I probably wouldn't have believed you. Let's see here. We have a question here from Zishan. Speaking of Starship, when do we expect the first Florida Starship launch pad to be ready? Max, as host of Starship Update, I'm going to throw this over to you. We've been talking about 39A pretty consistently at this point. SpaceX is still working on that pad. That is the first Florida Starship launch pad. When do you think we will see a launch of Starship? But maybe not even launch. When do you think we will actually see Starship arriving in Florida? I'll start off easy.
I think, well, the trajectory for that one is going to be completely dependent on what happens with Flight 12, right? So if Flight 12 goes well, I can see them trying to ship vehicles down probably towards the middle or end of summertime here. But the pad itself probably won't be ready to even support a booster or vehicles either ship or booster, probably until maybe mid to late Q3 at the very earliest, and then that's being optimistic. But I am still in the camp that if they can keep this current trajectory and if Flight 12 goes well, that they probably can launch at least one before the end of the year. It might be in like November or December, but I still think a Starship launch from Florida this year is possible. So cross your fingers, cross your toes, cross everything you got, because all of us here have been waiting a very long time for that. And as each day goes by, we are just one day closer. So hopefully that continues.
Fingers crossed. This is a great point, which I thought about yesterday and completely forgot until this question just jogged my memory. Julia, I'm going to throw this one over to you because Kelly is saying, with all that is being said about the boosters heading to different locations, will the sonic booms be at different rates or times? Is one booster taking a longer ride? And Julia, because one booster is physically going to be much further away than the other, I keep saying much further away, it's only a few miles, but relatively further away, you're going to hear the sonic booms at different times.
You know what? That is a very good point. It's not going to be the rapid succession of boom, 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 boom. It's going to be staggered. More than likely because they should have a slightly different reentry profile. Valid point. Good job. I hadn't thought about that one yet. Which means the VAB squeals may be staggered as well, because I think doesn't matter which pad booster comes from or creates the sonic boom from. I think the VAB in theory should squeal either way. So this could be interesting, kind of like 4th of July, boom, and then a staggered boom, but there's going to be squeals and okay, when I say squeals, think bottle rockets. Think that noise as a bottle rocket goes up. That's the noise we hear when we say VAB. So I'll report back on what I heard after this launch, and we'll have a more accurate assessment of what science,
Indeed. At this point, Max has lots of kit that needs to be prepared, so I'm going to send you off, Max. Have fun, enjoy Falcon Heavy, fingers crossed the weather remains on our side with a launch 33 minutes and 15 seconds from now.
Yes, indeedy. Thank you very much, everybody. I know it's a bit earlier than usual, but thank you very much, and I will see y'all on the other side.
And I am very quickly doing an incredibly dangerous thing, and I'm trying to figure out the time gap between the sonic booms that we will hear at the press site. Okay, so
I mean, I don't think it's going to be like a minute. It's
so if my calculations are correct, the sonic booms will take 21.7 seconds. Hang on, I did the maths wrong. Let's do that again. This is great. Live maths on stream, everybody. This is riveting. Okay, 21.5
Which, by the way, while you're doing
seconds.
I was going to say, while you're doing that in the timeline, we should be getting into the the RP1 load on stage 2. So
Continuing
if all
to
is going to
progress
plan.
on.
Yeah, and if so, we will see the locks load happen not at 20 minutes and 20 seconds like we're used to seeing with Falcon 9, but it happens a couple minutes earlier on Falcon Heavy. So right now, it should hopefully be doing that RP1 load on stage 2.
Okay, I've done the maths, and just for disclaimer, I did the measurements from the point where the microphone is all the way to the actual landing pad itself. Of course, they'll make the sonic booms when they're in the air, falling towards the landing pad, not at the landing pad. So grain of salt, but the calculations show that it will take 21.5 seconds for the landing zone 40 sonic boom to reach our mic, and 42.5 seconds for the landing zone 2 sonic booms to reach our microphone. So it looks like it's going to be a 20-second gap either way, which is going to be pretty cool. And that's, of course, again, something we'll never have heard before because they've never done landings at these different launch landing pads before. And now that landing zone 1 is off limits for SpaceX, their lease expired on that specific landing zone. I can't remember if landing zone 1 is going to ViaSpace or Phantom Space, but neither of those companies are going to be launching anytime soon. So, yeah.
and you know what, Ryan? I'm just going to be the voice of Alex, who's in the background here right now. And things are all relative, okay, to where your perspective of launch and landing, in particular landing, is. Because if you are north at Playa Linda, which, by the way, if you're just now pulling into Playa Linda, please be respectful of others. Park rangers are indeed going around and telling you where you're not supposed to be parking if you parked where you're not supposed to be parking. So just plan for that and keep driving and just be happy going to the beach a little farther down. That being said, if you're Playa Linda side, the LZ40 sonic boom will arrive to you first. But if you're Port Canaveral side, then the LZ2 boom will be first. So if you're somewhere in between, I guess the in between would be, I don't know, maybe Port St. John. Relative to you, the sonic booms may actually be kind of sort of the same. So guess what? We might all have a different experience. Those at the press site will have one experience. Anybody south of us may have a totally different experience. Your math may be mathin', but it may not apply to everyone.
That is going to be really, really cool. Yeah. So if you are watching out in the field, make sure you let us know how you hear the sonic booms on the NSF socials. We are on all the social platforms, you can find us there. So do let us know as we cross under half an hour until launch. Something that doesn't look as cool though, Sawyer, we've just cut to this wider camera and I see a big black rain cloud right above the press site, and that doesn't look great, to be perfectly honest.
No, not really. Yeah, you can probably hear through my mic the wind picking up a little bit more, and yeah, it's definitely gotten darker and colder here at the press site. In that wide view, I'm actually blocked by the buses, but I'm down here in this parking lot area, and it looks a little rough. But the good news is there's still that half hour for all of this to clear out of the way, because one of the main concerns that they had was the cumulus cloud rule and the surface electric field rule. Which is why initially it was 70%. SpaceX later saying at the 1 hour mark that it was at 55% favorable. The concern being that a rocket like this flying through clouds that could produce lightning, or if nothing else, have enough electricity in it that as the rocket flies through it, it would create its own lightning that could hit the vehicle, would be a bad day. I know we reference this a bunch, but Apollo 12 and the SCE to aux moment, which saved the crew after the vehicle was struck by lightning on the way uphill. So that is why it is a concern. But if these clouds keep moving, they are moving out of the way. They are going, it looks like, from the east to the west. And Falcon 9 is launching basically due east here, or Falcon Heavy, keep saying that, is basically launching due east here. So we'll see. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed indeed. And as you were answering that question, the clouds do appear to be getting away from the top of this camera view. So that does align with moving away from the launch pad, which is what we want. We don't want the big bad clouds over the launch pad. We want the big bad clouds, or preferably none. But if they do have to exist, everywhere apart from over the Kennedy Space Center right now, with this launch scheduled to take place in 27.5 minutes from now. So, as we continue to count down, we've got a few more people joining us on the stream. So, Soy, if you wouldn't mind, could you just give us another little rundown on what we are actually going to be seeing today? What's on board the rocket? Where are we going? Because, of course, it's been 18 months since the last time Falcon Heavy was vertical at the pad. And this is a very good chance. This is a lot of people's first Falcon Heavy launch live with us if they've just, tuned in after the Starship flights or even Artemis 2.
Sure thing. So again, the rocket you see on the pad there, Falcon Heavy, on top inside those payload fairings is ViaSat-3 F3. So that's the third ViaSat-3 satellite. It is part of an internet satellite-based company that has their satellites up in geostationary orbit, which is different from Starlink, which has theirs in low Earth orbit. So instead of having to launch, 60 or 70 of them, or 30 of them at a time, they can just launch 3, which this will be their third. The first one was originally set to cover the Americas. That one launched on Falcon Heavy. The second one set to cover Europe and Africa. That one launched on Atlas V, but because of an issue with one of the antennas deploying on that first one, they're going to swap places. But this one will be going towards Asia Pacific area. So that's where that will be covering. This will be launching into almost exact geostationary orbit. The satellite will have to do a little bit of the work once it gets up there on that Boeing-built satellite bus. And that should be providing high-speed internet to aircraft as well as mariners, homes and businesses, and even for some governmental use. So that is what is on board Falcon Heavy, of which you see there those 3 center cores. The 2 side cores are set to land back here at the launch site, where it is currently raining as I am speaking right now, over at LZ2 and LZ40. The center core will be expended, and the upper stage will be placed into a graveyard orbit out of the way, and I may need to go get dry for a moment.
I don't blame you. Get out of the rain, Sawyer. It is we don't want you drenched at the time of launch. We want you dry. So do get out of the rain while you can. As you can see there on the left hand. Oh, go on, Julia.
I'm apparently the only one who was prepared, and I've been doing commentary from my car, and I'm kind of giggling because I am.
On the left-hand side, we are seeing some imagery from before launch, some great pictures from SpaceX of both the satellite and Falcon Heavy as it was integrated inside the horizontal integration facility, which is their big hangar at the end of the ramp there at 39A. where they get all their Falcon rockets ready for launch. And it's also very easy to spot which booster is which. Of course, we know which booster is the center core, but thankfully, because B-1072, one of the side cores, has only flown once before, and B-1075, the other side core, has flown 21 times before, it's pretty easy to spot which booster is which due to the fact that B-1075 is much more sooty than B-1072. B-1075 previously flying 21 times as a Falcon 9 booster over on the west coast. All of its prior flights have been from the Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. B-1072, on the other hand, is a lifelong Falcon Heavy sidecore. I say that it's flown once on the GOES-U mission back in June of 2024. There is that booster. Of course, this also raises the point, what on earth is minus y and what on earth is positive y? That is the orientation, the axes, is that the correct word, of the vehicle. The y-axis runs along the boosters, so you might hear PY and MY, that means positive y and minus y, or plus y and minus y rather, and that is what SpaceX uses to identify which booster is which. So you can see here the much sootier booster is positive y. I keep saying positive, I mean to say plus y, and you can see there how many flights it has done before. Plenty of Starlink missions. So even though the pad is looking relatively good, we do have that big rain cloud that's over the press site right now. So we are protecting the cameras for now, and fingers crossed the rain will have cleared by the time that the rocket is due to launch in 22 minutes and 40 seconds from now.
And a reminder, it's just raining over here at the press site. It's slightly different at the pad, which is about 3 miles away. So, and this is going east. These rainstorms are blowing west.
Different directions, which is fantastic to see, as the vapor is rising on the vehicle. We're seeing some venting now from the transporter erector as well. And Sawyer, we are now through or approaching 22 minutes. The famous T-minus 22 minute vent. Wait, that doesn't sound right.
I know. It's weird. It's normally 20 minute, 20 second. We moved the 2, so it's 22:00 instead over here now. But yeah, there it is. That is the vent. So at this point, that means that they have finished loading the RP-1, the rocket propellant 1, the kerosene into stage 2, and they are now thermally conditioning the lines on the transporter erector to start loading in the liquid oxygen, which is a lot colder than the RP-1. So they're getting those lines ready so you don't thermally shock them as the cooled propellants there go through. It's a lot colder than the RP-1 that was just running through it. So they're getting ready for that. This is very similar to what we're used to seeing on Falcon 9, just 2 minutes earlier. Meanwhile, the core stages are continuing to load the LOX and RP-1 and have been for the since T-minus 50 minutes. And you could tell there, it's weird. It's a little on the windier side here, blowing east to west. But you could see there, it's not really creating a super strong wind like we sometimes see, where we like to call it the Cape, where it looks like there's a cape on the vehicle there. And I stand corrected, the RP-1 load should be wrapping up in about 55 seconds. A little different from Falcon 9.
Great pun there, Sawyer. Pun token awarded.
Thank you. It's been a while.
And we should see that stage 2 liquid oxygen load beginning 18.5 minutes prior to launch. So that is about 2 minutes away from now, almost precisely. So good progress for Falcon Heavy as we press towards the launch of ViaSat-3 F3.
And it's worth pointing out as well, the rain that was just popping in here as I was giving my previous answer before is already dissipated here at the press site. So that's how fast the weather is changing. So that's why with a 55% favorable forecast, don't be too worried.
Yeah. I'm not a Space Force space weather expert looking at the forecast or anything, but blue skies are opening up over the launch pad, so I am feeling much more optimistic than I was a few minutes ago. But again, I am watching through some cameras from a few thousand miles away, so again, Don't work for the Space Force, not an official weather forecaster, but blue skies are looking good to me. We have gotten some more support, which I'm going to run through quickly. Of course, we don't want to be talking about support when the rocket is in the air. We want to be talking about the rocket when the rocket is in the air. But very quickly, Space Watcher, thank you for gifting a Red Team membership. John, thank you for also gifting a Red Team membership. And, you know, if 2 Red Team memberships weren't enough, I raised 50 Red Team memberships because Patrick Bob, who always does these huge amounts of support on Starbase Live, gifting 50 Red Team memberships. That is 52 people over the last 5 minutes now have access to the membership area completely free of charge for an entire month, and that is a wonderful thing to see. And if you receive one of them, make sure to thank the person, probably Patrick Bob, who gifted that to you in chat, because now you get behind the scenes pictures. And trust me, we had so many pictures from Falcon Heavy set, we had so many pictures from Artemis, so many pictures from Starship all the time. You know, it's a consistent influx of imagery coming to you in the membership area. So yeah, great to see as always. And if you want to upgrade, to Capcom, you get access to the member Discord and the other levels as well. Launch Director and Flight Engineer. Get your name in the end of all the NSF live shows. So that's another perk as well if you are interested. Now approaching 18 minutes before launch, we should have just crossed the point where Stage 2 liquid oxygen load begins. So that's the last event until we get to Stage 1 engine chill coming up at 7 minutes before launch. In the meantime, we have a question here from WG Mojo. Of course, we're excited to see this Falcon Heavy, but what other Falcon Heavy missions are we expecting to see soon? Sawyer, I don't know if you have time to open up a next spaceflight, but if you do, I would toss this one in your direction.
I mean, next spaceflight is so easy to access. No, I'm kidding. It is easy to access, though. Let's see. Falcon Heavy. We've got the Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope, which will hopefully be this year, which is 8 months ahead of schedule in the most recent update they gave. And under budget. So hopefully we will see that this year. They were also contracted for the Astrobotic Griffin mission. So Astrobotic Mission 3. So that is also set to happen this year. So we should have at least 3 Falcon Heavies, including this one, potentially more. But those are the ones that, as of now, we are pretty confident will happen this year.
Yeah, we are looking forward to a much more Falcon Heavy. I mean, I say Falcon Heavy dense. It's 3 launches, and Falcon 9, you know, at the height of its cadence, could do that in about 6 days. So, not crazy cadence, but it's a good cadence for Falcon Heavy, considering we didn't see any Falcon Heavy launches last year. 3 launches this year, I would be very happy with. And beyond that, there are, as you would imagine, plenty of military payloads lined up to launch on Falcon Heavy as well, with all of those payloads from the US government. And I think we are now. This is why Max had to go off, because we're getting more cameras configured for launch. Super zoom lens is attached to the camera, and this is going to be, I think, the longest lens we have ever tracked a Falcon Heavy launch with, because this new equipment, of course, pretty sure it came in after the last Falcon Heavy flew. So here we go. Again, we're going to see things unlike we've ever seen them before, because it's been so long since we last saw a Falcon Heavy launch. Under 16 minutes now. Let's have a look through here. I've gotten some more support. I should probably read that out. Todd, thank you for becoming a PadRap member. We also have Cole Mergs. Sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly, but thank you for gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Let's have a look through here. We have a question here from Yeet. I don't know if we actually know the answer. I'd imagine it's simply just fleet management, which might sound really boring. But they're asking, do we know why SpaceX decided to convert booster 1075 from a normal Falcon 9 first stage over to be a Falcon Heavy side booster? I don't think they've said, but yeah, I think fleet management might be the boring answer to that one, unfortunately. We have another question here from Mike asking if does SpaceX load the GPS coordinates of the drone ship before launch, or does the booster lock onto its coordinates in real time? Well, there isn't a drone ship on this mission, Julia, but I'm pretty sure it has live communications, like there's live telemetry, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of a combination of both things when you speak about landing zones, either land or drone ships. So the coordinates are loaded in there ahead of time, but to be more precise, as it's coming down, there is like an RF that kind of happens between the launch pad and the booster, which is how you get those precision landings, shall we say. So yeah, there's radio frequency happening, booster ground. It lets the booster know how far am I from my target, so I can start pulling back and knowing when to shut down. And it also lets it know whether or not it's on target and needs to abort. So these are also programmed. We've seen water landing from landing zones before, unexpected in that moment, but as it was coming down, it was communicating that it was not where it needed to be to land safely, so it diverted off to water. So just like a drone ship, there is a plan B if it cannot safely land to protect the ground assets. It will go offshore to water.
Indeed. We have seen that once before, unfortunately, back on CRS-16, I think. It's a little while ago at this point.
It was wobbly.
Yeah, a little bit of a spin going on with that particular booster.
And that booster actually didn't fully disintegrate upon impact and got dragged back in.
It was a wonderful soft touchdown, and you could even see when the landing legs deployed. I'm sure Scott Manley did a great explanation of it at the time, but because of some physics thing, which is the limit of my knowledge, I'm just going to call it a physics thing. When the landing legs deployed, it actually slowed down the rotation, which was pretty cool. It's probably some angular momentum or something or other. This is why I talk about the rockets and I don't build the rockets. Grissu, thank you for your support. Just saying boop. You're about an hour and 50 minutes late, unfortunately, because we did start the stream, but a little while ago. But I'll reserve that boop for the end of the stream for you, which, fingers crossed, if we launch on time, will be a little bit sooner than the start of the stream from now, as we approach 11.5 minutes left to go. Second stage liquid oxygen load continues on Falcon Heavy. The first stage is pretty much loaded at this point, as it continues to prepare for launch. But of course, those will be continuing right up until the last second, not literal last second, but as late as possible to make sure that they are as cold as possible, meaning they're as dense as possible, meaning SpaceX can extract as much performance as possible from every single one of those stages, because technically there's 3 boosters in a second stage. So the denser the propellant is, the more they can carry on board, the more performance they can get out of the engines. It means they can take more stuff into space. Okay, we have a quick question here, which I'll quickly get from Eric. They're asking, what's the payload capability of Falcon Heavy to low Earth orbit or cislunar? Low Earth orbit is pretty heavy because SpaceX makes that readily available for us. It's a range from under 50,000 kilos to 63,800 kilos. That's, of course, because Falcon Heavy has 3 variants. It has all cores being recovered. It has just the side cores being recovered. And then it has that fully expendable variant. So it's a range because, of course, if you expend all of your boosters, you can take more stuff up. But if you want to do full recovery, you can only take a certain amount up because you have to reserve propellant for that return. In terms of to the moon, I don't think SpaceX has actually listed that in their payload users guide. but I'm sure it's probably somewhere between maybe 26 and 16 tons. I'm guessing because it says it can do 26 tons to geostationary transfer orbit and 16 tons to Mars. So the moon is between those two destinations, so I'm going to assume that the payload capacity is somewhere between the two payload capacities you can take to those two destinations by process of elimination. Anyways, we have crossed under 10 minutes now, and as a quick reminder, it's been a little while since a Falcon Heavy launch. If you want to represent Falcon Heavy, you can do so by going to shop.nasaspaceflight.com, where our Falcon Heavy collection is available for you. We have the awesome Heavy design on those new trucker hats, on the hoodies, on the t-shirts, on the mugs, and we of course have the Merlin Thrust collection design as well, which is awesome. I have one of those shirts. Sawyer has been representing the Heavy design at today and yesterday at the remote setup, and today at the press site. So there you go. Awesome, awesome design. It's been on the store for a little while, but you know, it's been a little while since the Falcon Heavy launch. So just as a brief reminder, that is available to you at shop.nasaspaceflight.com. Also got launch entry landing. We've got a landing today. I also love the launch entry landing shirt. That's also there if you want it. Very expertly modeled by Sawyer there at the bottom as well.
Yeah, I know that guy.
Me too. Me too. Official Quacker is asking if there will be a fairing recovery, and Julia, as someone who watches the fleet, Doug is out in the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah. So fairing recovery is definitely on the plate for today. They're downrange, they're ready, and really, I don't think there's anything different about this flight profile that would prevent them from doing the regular duties of grabbing those fairings.
It is straight east today, so that's pretty much as plain and simple as launch trajectories get from Florida. Straight east. There's no going up the eastern seaboard, no curving around the Bahamas, just lob it straight east and fingers crossed it'll reach its geostationary transfer orbit. Okay,
I'm watching clouds right now.
I don't like the sound of that. I thought the blue skies, I thought we were all happy. Oh, now I see a big cloud over the launch site.
It's a big cloud that likes to bloom upward, and those are not happy clouds. Along with the lower level is moving faster than the upper level that I can see from my perspective. That's all. I'm just watching clouds and telling them to behave because I don't like these particular clouds.
We have now crossed under 7 minutes though, and that means that engine chill is underway on the first stage, which means engine chill is now underway on 27 Merlin 1D engines. We have 9 engines on the core, 9 engines on each of the side boosters. That combines to 27 engines on the first stage of this rocket. Not quite the 33 Raptors we see on Super Heavy, but still 27 Merlins is a considerable number of engines and a very pretty sight indeed. So for everybody who's been asking when Flight 12, it's not the Flight 12 you've probably been asking about, but it is a Flight 12, and it's a heavy lift rocket at that with 27 engines. So not much to complain about here. And fingers crossed we do get this liftoff in 6 minutes from now. I'm also keeping an eye on the windsock we can see there blowing at the bottom of frame. Julia, just as a brief on the ground weather report, how are you feeling with the winds and with the clouds and with the sun and with the rain right now?
How am I feeling? I'm feeling like I really hope that we thread the needle on this one, and that what I'm seeing is coming toward me and away from the pad. As much as I don't want it to come toward me and rain, away from the pad toward me is the best. But you know what? They like to thread the needle around here, and that could be what we're on track to do.
SpaceX has done that on more than one occasion, and they've launched in a much worse probability of violation conditions. So we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, from this wide view, you can see a big bit of rain over to the right-hand side from this perspective from the launch pad. But I do see a gap in the clouds directly above the launch pad. So fingers crossed that holds for 4 minutes and 55 seconds. And those are the different landing pads we're going to be landing at today. On the left, landing zone 40. On the right, landing zone 2. Spaced apart. And you can even see there, or we could see for a second, that landing zone 40 camera gives us a sneaky peek over at Space Launch Complex 37, which is, of course, where SpaceX is actively constructing 2 more Starship launch pads. They've already started on the base of the tower, I believe, for the first of those 2 Starship launch pads at Space Launch Complex 37. So it's always great to get that sneaky preview over towards that pad. Because, of course, we're not allowed in that part of the Space Force base. It is an active military base, so completely understandable why, but it's a nice sneaky view of that construction work. That's the word I was looking for. Turning our attention back to Falcon Heavy, we can see that the strongback has retracted, or at least is starting to retract. It goes just leans back ever so slightly right now, and then it will fall all the way back at liftoff, which is scheduled for just under 4 minutes' time. But at this point, Sawyer, as we approach launch, I'm sure you have some cameras that you would want to set up and get ready to capture this launch. Angry looking rain clouds, so I will send you off and wish you good luck for launch.
I appreciate it. Again, I'd never hope for rain over here so much, as long as it's not at the pad. Fingers crossed.
It is certainly one of the most epic looking pre-launch countdowns I've seen for quite some time, but that is a big patch of blue sky over on the left. Angry rain clouds in the back of shot. I want the big blue patch and not the angry rain clouds. Fingers crossed they appear in... they move over the rocket. Also getting a great view of all the new Starship construction that's happening. I'm sure Alex is going to be looking all over that. And we have confirmation that both of the side core LOX load is complete. So liquid oxygen completely loaded now on both of the side boosters. That is great news as we cross under 3 minutes. Some of the key milestones to be looking out for over the final 60 seconds of the count is going to be the flight computer being commanded to begin those final pre-launch checks. That's scheduled at T-minus 59 seconds. Later, we will get the launch director verifying go for launch at T-minus 45 seconds. That'll be followed by the propellant tanks pressurizing themselves for flight at T-minus 20 seconds. And then we should be seeing the ignition sequence for all 27 Merlin 1D engines 6 seconds before liftoff. And that is going to be an incredible sight indeed. And we've just got confirmation that LOX load is complete on the center core. So the first stage completely full of liquid oxygen now as we count down towards launch in 2 minutes' time of ViaSat-3 F3 delivering that 6-ton communication satellite to geostationary orbit. Another big vent there from the transporter erector, that strong back structure supporting Falcon Heavy as it prepares for launch. It has now retracted ever so slightly and will fall back entirely to about 45 degrees come launch time. It is windy. We're going to turn the microphones up now as we approach launch, but you can hear the wind. It is very windy. But we want it to be windy. If it has to be windy somewhere, I prefer it to be windy at the press site than windy at the launch pad, because we want to see this rocket launch today in 1 minute and 20 seconds from now. Okay, we're now approaching the very dynamic portion of the countdown. Vehicle should be taking control of the count any second now, so we're going to stand by for that. You can also see the water tower there with its little bit of overspill, which is, again, completely normal, seeing all of these things with the ground support equipment. We're now under a minute until launch. "45 seconds left to go in the countdown. Launch director will be verifying at this point if they are go for launch or not. Seeing continued venting from the TE as we cross under 30 seconds now. And I'm seeing at the very last minute some sun is shining on Launch Complex 39A. Sun is shining on Falcon Heavy. Fingers crossed in 15 seconds time they can thread that needle. 10 seconds left to go until launch. And we are in a hold. And that, unfortunately, is going to call it for today. We are in a hold, and we are not going forward with the countdown. Officially stopped 28 seconds until launch. Falcon Heavy remains vertical at the pad. Everything looks good, but we are not going to space today. Let's listen in to what SpaceX has to say.
We're standing by to get a little bit more information on the nature of the abort.
Last minute hold from Falcon Heavy. Clock has recycled to 15 minutes, but again, this is Falcon Heavy. We do not have that hold capability, so we will not be launching today. And SpaceX's graphics saying a weather scrub for today's launch.
As you heard on the nets, it looks like we will be standing down from today's launch attempt due to weather. The vehicle and payloads remain in good health, and our next launch opportunity is tomorrow at 10. As always, thank you so much for watching, and we hope to see everyone back here for our next.
We're not going anywhere, but we do have a stand down for today's launch. SpaceX scrubbing the count at T-minus 28 seconds due to weather conditions being outside of their allotted zones there. So unable to launch today because of weather. Fingers crossed things will clear up. But the vehicle remains on the launch pad. It's healthy. The payload inside is healthy. That's the really important thing. But yeah, really cutting it close. We're getting right into the pointy end of the count here before calling off the launch. But this is SpaceX. They will give it absolutely everything until they have to call things off. Because, yeah, they have threaded the needle once or twice before. Unfortunately, today is not one of those occasions. But again, the sun shining on the rocket right at the very final moment. At this point, I'm going to thank Julia for being on with us for today's stream. Thank you for, I don't know if you can respond, but thank you for being on today's stream. Been great talking to you as always. And yeah, fingers crossed we get a launch soon.
It was nice being with you too, Ryan, and the rest of the crew. With that being said, to be honest, I was kind of getting blown around out there, holding on to the camera and a steady shot. So I guess it is what it is. They tried, but today is a scrub. So I personally will see you again tomorrow, but keep going with our team here, y'all, because there's lots to say and lots to think about.
Thank you, Julia. Now, I was talking earlier, a few minutes ago, about the store, about the Falcon Heavy collection, but we have something new, actually new in the store, because this is a scrub of a big mission, which means we have the scrub merch at shop.nasaspaceflight.com. We have our scrub poster and our scrub t-shirt for Falcon Heavy. Let's zoom in. I watched the whole stream. I commentated the whole stream. And all I got was a Falcon Heavy scrub. And if I am correct, I believe this is the first Falcon Heavy scrub since we introduced this merch. So I think this is the first time anyone has the opportunity to buy this merch. So if you want, shop.nasaspaceflight.com, available for a limited time after the scrub. And I think this is the first time this has ever been on the store. So technically a brand new product release, technically. One way or another. But there you go. Shop.nasaspaceflight.com, if you so wish, available to you now. We also have the poster if you want something else to put up and not the t-shirt. But there you go. Add it to your collection. So there you go. If you are just joining us, we are standing down from today's launch of Falcon Heavy with the ViaSat-3 F3 payload on board because the weather is no-go. The big old rain cloud right over the launch pad. SpaceX not going to be launching through this poor weather, unfortunately. Well, fortunate for the rocket, unfortunate for us who wanted to see a launch today, but scrubs, not ruds. So the vehicle remains healthy, the payload is healthy, and they'll be attempting a launch at a later date, most likely tomorrow, if that date is available. And yeah, as I said, this is the Scrub merch, so it is only available for the Scrub, and you can see the countdown on the shop as well. The countdown at the top there, 27 hours, 46 minutes for this exclusive Scrub merch. So we will continue watching on as Falcon Heavy will now enter detanking operations. It is, of course, not going to be expending its propellant with its Merlin engines. It's going to have to offload them in a slightly more boring way, to say the least, slightly less dynamic way, back into the tank farm or vented off into the atmosphere. We did get some more support during the countdown here, so I'm going to read through that very quickly. Todd, thank you for your support. Anonymous has been on the store, and they've gotten the Coffee Moonjoy mug. Thank you for that. And Good Joe Guy was asking how long was the launch window before the Scrub? Well, we did have an 85-minute launch window to play with today. Unfortunately, SpaceX did target the opening of that launch window, which is the weather was no-go for that period. The weather was deteriorating throughout the day, so SpaceX unfortunately having to stand down. But they did, before standing down from today's launch, have an 85-minute window there to play with. And with that, I'm going to thank everybody who has been on. I'm not sure if anyone else is actually able to talk right now because everyone is packing down and escaping from the rain. But Sawyer, thank you for being on stream today, braving the weather for us.
Yeah, my pleasure. As like Julia, also getting blown around here. Thankfully, my brakes are on. But this isn't the only launch today. A reminder, there is also Atlas 5 tonight, which Atlas trying something very different this time. They are going for a less than 24-hour turnaround to launch here. So they rolled out early this morning. And normally they do it like 3 days in advance. So it is over at Slick 41 Atlas with the Amazon Leo LA6 mission. And that's scheduled for tonight. So we'll be back for that too. So don't worry, if your launch fever has not been quenched, hopefully it will happen tonight.
Indeed, another rare bird. Atlas 5 doesn't launch, well, I say it doesn't, it actually launches more often than Falcon Heavy these days, but doesn't launch that often in comparison to Falcon 9. ULA trying to do their best Falcon 9 impression with Atlas 5 by rolling it out on the same day as launch. It's going to be very interesting to see if they can pull that off, because of course the countdown for Atlas 5 much longer than Falcon 9. But thank you, Sawyer. Also out in the field, offsite, we had Wade providing a live feed, we had DYs providing a live feed, we had Julia, of course, out in the field, who we spoke to just a few minutes ago, and we also had Max Evans out in the field providing a feed. Unfortunately, we didn't get to track any rockets today, this morning, but we might be able to track a rocket later tonight. Thank you to Jay Keegan for pushing all the buttons. Thank you to all of you for watching. I've been Mike Caton for NSF. See you later. Let's see if we can get an Atlas 5 off the pad this evening.
And here we go.
There's the deluge. Here's ignition.
Roger, roll, Atlantic. Doubling up.
Did it just do a Kerbal?
Back to the moon and beyond.
Put that in the big bag, you know.
Back at home, we all have a lot of work to do, but from here, it sure looks like a perfect flow.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
We did have an observation. 343 unfolds to go.
It's orange.
Water towers can fly!
Bingo! Right in the center. Where's Jacqueline? There it is!
That was surreal. That's not what we want to see.
Oh my god.
Yikes. You bet and Kerr. We don't need any more of these.